at the staggering cost of £25 million, every single person in Britain with a telephone was just shrieked at by the government. A government that has 11% approval rating in the opinion polls. Even Macron's got 13%. The British government has 11%. That means 89% of the British people don't approve of them. But they're spending money like water, and war and the preparations for war are the highest on their agenda. Not the ailing, failing National Health Service, not the ancient decrepitude of our public services and public facilities, our sewers, our water, not on the paralysed coastal communities in Britain sinking into the sea metaphorically as well as perhaps literally, not on the ancient 300-year-old industrial infrastructure of Britain, no, on war, on handing over money and promising forces we don't have for more and more war. The shrieking that we got was just that, a shriek. It didn't tell us what to do in this emergency it was priming us for. What were we supposed to do? Climb under the stairs? Lay into our stockpile of baked beans and bottled mineral water? What were we supposed to do in this emergency? What's the point in telling us there's an emergency that you are leading us into without any means of protecting our families or defending ourselves? Mind you, this is a government of trash. I told you exactly 6 days ago that Britain's Deputy Prime Minister was a lowlife, and now she's a no-life. They tried to hang on to her to the bitter end, but the evidence just kept mounting that she was a chiseling little cheat who, for private enrichment, for personal wealth, betrayed the policies of the government and the laws passed by the government, passed by her actually. She ignored them, because with this government it's don't do as I do, it's do as I say. All of it would be worthy of a show unto itself, but there are much more deadly, potentially fatal, existential questions that are now reaching out all across the globe, and the British and the American government are deeply embroiled in all of them. Let's start with the most significant. In 1789, the US government established the Department of War. Who were they making war on in 1789? The Department of War was to make war on the Native American people and to complete the annihilation of the original inhabitants of the United States of America. The settlers came from far away, first from Britain, then from Germany and Norway and Denmark. All over the world they came from in the end, but they weren't Americans, bruv. The Americans had been handily disposed of in blood and thunder by the established Department of War. The Secretary of War in America in 1789 made war on Americans and may very well be getting ready to do so in Chicago this very weekend. The promise to make war on the cities and the vast urban conglomerates in America may be yet another reason to conclude that Donald Trump didn't intend to put America first. He isn't MAGA. He's anything but MAGA. He hates the majority of the people in America, and increasingly they hate him. But the clear and present danger is that this Department of War and this tattooed drunkard, Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of State for War, is literally steaming gunboats full speed ahead to the shores of Venezuela. The Venezuelan people have become mobilized. Millions of them are being armed. Militias are being formed. The very existence of Venezuela hangs in the balance. This was all kicked off by a pornographic, obscene clip which Donald Trump unveiled in the Oval Office of the White House itself. It was the summary execution of what he said were drug dealers. I'll come back to that in a minute. And I got to asking, it's a question no one has yet properly answered, how come President Duterte of the Philippines is currently rotting in a jail cell in The Hague in the Netherlands for, checks notes, summary execution of drug dealers? That's what he stands accused of. In fact, he's only guilty of the crime of seeking to break the addiction of the people of the Philippines to being told what to do by the United States of America. But Donald Trump did exactly the same. He says he landed American missiles on a small boat of 11 people and claimed they were drug dealers and boasted that he'd summarily executed them. No trial, no apprehension, no facts, no evidence, no drugs, no drug dealers. Every person on board was simply eviscerated. And Trump boasted of it with that idiot, savant look on his face. It turns out that they weren't drug dealers at all. They were fishermen. It wasn't a boat headed for the United States. It was a boat that could only sail 200 miles off the coast of Venezuela, as can be clearly seen by the kind of engine that the boat had. Nobody told Trump, and he's too stupid to know, that to claim that this boat was headed for America with drugs could not possibly be true. It could not go more than 200 miles. And if they were drug dealers, when was it legal to eviscerate suspected drug dealers? When was it legal when you could have apprehended them for people to be murdered? For that is what they were. Murdered with the typical panache of Donald J. Trump. But that is, of course, only a mere bagatelle compared to what the Secretary of State for War has in mind. He said, nobody said it about him, he said, we are only awaiting orders from President Trump to invade Venezuela. Now, I know quite a bit about Venezuela. I've been there many times. I know the feelings, not just of the people of Venezuela, but all over Latin America, about the Yankees up north. I know that they will fight tooth and nail with any weapons that they can get their hands on against any American invasion of Venezuela. And what are you going to do once you've invaded it? You're going to occupy it? Do you know the size of Venezuela? Do you know that Venezuela is one of the biggest countries in the world? Do you know about the mountains and the jungles and the urban alleyways of the towns and cities of Venezuela? Are you looking for a new Vietnam? Because that is exactly what you're going to get. Now, I know, President Trump, that you were sadly unable to answer the call of the United States government to fight in Vietnam. In fact, 7 times you got a deferment on medical grounds because you had bone spurs. You could not possibly die face down in a Vietnamese paddy field. So you were very lucky. But I'm here to tell you, you are leading your country into a new Vietnam. And if you do it, one part of me hopes that you do it. It's only my love of the Venezuelan people and my love of the ordinary people of the United States military who will be sent there, ordered there, that stops me hoping that you will do it, for it will bring about the end of the Monroe Doctrine. It will bring about the end of the idea that you can invade anybody, anytime, any place, anywhere. But it's not the only war that is apparently pending. Today, a swarm of Yemeni drones answered the mass murder of almost the entire government of Yemen by an Israeli airstrike in Sana'a, the Yemen capital. The Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister, the Information Minister, the Culture Minister, the head of the armed forces, minister after minister after minister was eviscerated in an instant by Netanyahu and his American-supplied weapons and aircraft. And so the Yemenis said, we will answer this. Do you think we don't have anybody else that can become our Prime Minister, can become our Foreign Minister? We have many Yemenis ready to pick up their rifles and their microphones and their portfolios. And they waited a few days, and today they answered. They landed a swarm of drones on the settler state, evading all American and Israeli interception attempts, and they bombed the facilities and the terminals of the Israeli airports at Ben Gurion in Tel Aviv and elsewhere. They bombed 2 airports in one day without any reply from Israel's depleted defensive shields. And Israel has said that unusual forms of response will now be delivered by Israel. Unusual forms can sometimes mean weapons of mass destruction, and there's no reason to believe that Israel will not deliver weapons of mass destruction, because it was revealed this week that is precisely what they did in Syria. People laughed, pooh-poohed when I claimed that Israel had launched a nuclear weapon at Syria in the last few months. But this week it was confirmed that depleted uranium from Israeli weaponry has been detected, and a wave of cancers and mutilations and deformities can be expected amongst the Syrian population affected in the months and years to come. So what is it that they are actually going to do with Yemen? Yemen has effectively placed a stranglehold on Israeli traffic passing through the Red Sea. It has already, the only government in the world to do so, intervened to stop a genocide, which is the legal obligation on all governments everywhere. But none of them are living up to their legal requirements except the government of Yemen. The Yemeni people will be bracing themselves for another Israeli response, and soon there will be another Yemeni response. Why does all this matter? Well, right next door to Yemen is the Islamic Republic of Iran. Iran, which has rebuilt its defenses, which has improved its offensive capability, which now has Russian and Chinese weapon systems in place, is also expecting a new round of warfare with the settler state, led currently by Netanyahu. They very well may take it that attacks of an unusual nature on the people of Yemen next door is a clear and present danger to them. You'll recall that Professor Morandi didn't really have an answer to me, perhaps couldn't give an answer to me, on what I believe is a very real and significant question. If you were Iran, why would you wait for Israel to launch its repeatedly promised attack on you when you could preemptively and entirely legally launch your retaliatory self-defense strikes upon them? And I firmly believe that that is what is going to happen. Meanwhile, 2 people that you might not have expected agreed on the most important question in the world this week. They were Putin, the Kremlin, the government of Russia, and Trump, Rubio, and the government of the United States. What did they agree on? They agreed on this, that Europe is the reason why the Ukraine war shows no signs whatsoever of coming to an end. The European pygmy governments with their 11% approval ratings, with their 13% approval ratings, with their rapidly vanishing economic, cultural, and historical power, are nonetheless openly preparing for a war with Russia. I told you just the other day, on Wednesday, that Macron had ordered French hospitals to be ready for a mass casualty event in the middle of 2026, which is less than a year from now. Macron expects France to be taking mass casualties in a war with Russia less than a year from now. The British government continues to bleat that it will send 30,000 British soldiers to face the wrath of the battle-hardened nuclear superpower Russia in Ukraine. The fact that we don't have 30,000 soldiers, the fact that they wouldn't last 5 minutes, does not seem to have deterred the British determination, fueled by its ancient hatred with Russia, to go to war for Zelensky in Ukraine. Now, I know of nobody in Britain, and I know a lot of people in Britain, and a lot of people in Britain know me, talk to me everywhere that I go, to the shops, everywhere that I step foot in Britain. I have not yet met anybody, never, who said they wanted to go to war with Russia for Zelensky, and for which side of a line Kupiansk should lie on, when it has lain on 4 different maps in 4 different countries in the last 100 years. Spoiler alert, Kupiansk will in the next hours be on the Russian side of the line. So I'll have to find a new metaphor on that one. I know nobody in Britain that is ready to send their sons or daughters to war with Russia. And I doubt if there's anybody in France who's ready to do so either. I'm of the view that they're going to have to conscript our young people into the armed forces. It's why I was instrumental in forming the No Conscription League, because we simply don't have the wherewithal to even credibly warn or threaten Russia with a war. And Trump is right, like a stopped clock. He's right roughly twice a day, wrong the rest of the time. But he's right when he said that it is the European governments that are the principal blockage to any end to the war in Ukraine. Iran, Yemen, Ukraine, Gaza, China. I spoke about it on Wednesday, and I see that the video's been frozen as a result of a copyright strike from Chinese TV. Are you crazy, you people? Are you mad? We were exalting China on Wednesday, and you banned our video on YouTube. Either you or your computers need looking at. It's all coming up on the mother of all talk shows. Stay tuned.